Dear learners and listeners, Namaskar. I am Dr. Shweta and I am here with the new program on Going Beyond the Reality, that is Thinking and Reasoning Part 1. Do you ever realize that how our day begins? Our day begins with planning and implementation of what we have planned. Say for example, what time I have to reach office today. So, I would put an alarm and plan my activities accordingly. That is implementation. In one or the another manner, we are constantly involved in thinking and problem solving. So, this is what we are going to discuss in today's program. That what is thinking and how do we plan to solve the problems around us. So, the objectives of today's program are to make you understand the nature of thinking, explain different components of a thought process and describe the various stages of problem solving. Let us begin with the first aspect, which is thinking. What do you think thinking is? Thinking is a mental activity because we all know thinking is that something is going on in our mind. And when does thinking goes on or when does thinking begin? When there is a problem. So, thinking is a mental activity and this mental activity is initiated by a problem. There are certain sequence of internal mental steps such as judgment, abstraction, inference, reasoning, imagining, remembering, etc. Say for example, as I discussed with you that how the day begins. Maybe the day begins with planning to reach office on time, to reach school on time or to meet a special friend at 4 o'clock. So, all these problems involves the mental steps such as judgment, abstraction, inference, reasoning, imagining and remembering from the past that how do I plan my day today. Thinking is a cognitive process because I said that it goes on in the mind. It is a cognitive process in which we use symbols as representations of objects and events. It is a constructive process as we construct something new. When I say that in cognitive process we use symbols as representations, that means we are using one or the other kind of mental representation to represent certain objects and events in order to solve problems and come to a particular solution. Thinking relies on a variety of mental structures such as concepts, schemas and mental imagery. We will discuss about all these mental structures one by one. These mental structures are basically known as the components of thought process. Let us begin with the first component, which is known as concepts. Now, what are concepts? We have the capacity to abstract the essential characteristics of objects, events, human beings or whatever we perceive and experience. That means we can categorize or we can differentiate on the basis of the characteristics of the objects, events, human beings, etc. Say for example, when we see a cat, we categorize it as an animal, or whenever we see an apple, we categorize it as a fruit. Whenever we encounter a new object, we tend to categorize it and take the same action towards it as before. Same action towards it as before. For example, when we see a dog in the street, we categorize it as an animal. And like any other animal, we take the same behavioral action towards it. What is the behavioral action? We tend to avoid it so that it doesn't harm us. It was about the different objects. We have similarly, when we encounter a new social situation, we try to categorize it on the basis of past experience and take appropriate action. This is considered as one of the basic aspects of thinking. Say for example, here in the picture, if you look at the traffic lights, you know that when it signals red, red means to stop because you have earlier experienced it. So what is it? That is, when you are encountering a new situation, you are categorizing it on the basis of the past experiences. Past experiences is you experience such traffic lights in the cities as well as in the metropolitans or wherever you go. So on the basis of your previous experience, you try to take appropriate action. What are concepts basically? Concepts are actually known as the mental structures. Let us discuss or let us know something more about concepts. The categories we form are called concepts. Say for example, we have formed a category of human being, an animal or a fruit. These concepts are the building blocks of thinking and they allow us to organize knowledge in a systematic way. That means, how systematic way means, how do we behave when we look at an animal? What are the different categories of human beings? We have little children, we have young adults, we have old people. Or if this is a fruit, then it is meant to be eaten. So this is how we make categories. Most words except proper nouns represents concepts as they refer not to a single object or event but to a whole class. Now what do we mean by it? That concepts do not represent or refer to a single object. Say for example, the word house. Now the house refers to a class of buildings with common features. What are the common features that are involved in the house? Are it has rooms, kitchen, toilet, store, etc. and it is used for living by people and families and has certain facilities. So that means the word house is not referring to a single object but to a class of objects. Similarly, the word building is more general than a house. Now, in a house, there are families that stay, but in a building, we can have larger concept. A building can have houses, offices, market, etc. That means the word building is a more general word as compared to the word house. This is how we are making categories. Now, learning of concepts utilizes the psychological processes of generalization and discrimination. As I said that the building is a much more general word as compared to house. So this means concepts are helping us to generalize and discriminate. Now let us understand how does this happen. For example, when a child learns the concept dog, he or she may generalize the term initially to include all small animals. That means whenever he sees a small animal, whether it is a dog or a cat or anything similar, then child will have a tendency to say or to think that it is a dog. That is the concept of an animal. But what happens that from parental corrections and process of learning, the child learns to make finer discriminations until the concept is correctly formed. The concept of dog to include all the animals, but later on after parental corrections, the child could discriminate between different categories of animals, that it is a dog, it is a cat, it is a rat and so on. At this moment, it was only the family dog. However, the child may generalize the concept to include other dogs of different breeds and sizes. The child may further refine the concept and distinguish between pet dog and street dog, friendly dog or aggressive dog, etc. That means first of all it was a general concept of dog, but after constant parental corrections, the child learned to differentiate or discriminate between the different types of dogs. That is, the concepts helps us in generalization and discrimination. Concepts may be concrete, Concrete means something which can be touched, felt by hands. For example, a dog, a table, a tree, etc. You can touch these concepts. But the concepts may be abstract. Abstract means something which has to be understood only. You cannot touch. For example, honesty, democracy, justice. That means you need to understand these words. That is, what is honesty? What are the things that include honesty? What is democracy? What are the justice? What do we mean by justice? That means we cannot actually touch all these concepts, but we have to make a general understanding about what are the characteristics that would involve an honest person, or that would involve a democracy, or we can say that justice has taken place. Such kinds of concepts are known as abstract concepts that need to be only understood and not touched. The child acquires the concrete concepts much earlier in life and later on the abstract concepts. Studies by Piaget indicate that child first learns object concepts, example ball, and develop more abstract concepts only as he or she grows older, because first of all the child experiences to touch the objects, and only later in his or her life he develops the understanding to understand certain concepts. So this was one component of thought, that is concepts. The another component of thought is known as schemas. Let us understand what do we mean by schemas. Schemas are much more complex than concepts. Each schema contains many distinct concepts. For example, each of us possesses a self schema. What is a self schema? That is a mental framework holding lot of information about ourselves, as we perceive ourselves to be. That is, what is my self schema about myself? How do I feel about myself? This self schema will include many different concepts about ourselves. For example, you may consider yourself as very intelligent, or very attractive, or healthy, hardworking, or pleasant, etc. That is a self schema about yourself. That is what you are thinking. What is the mental representation in you about yourself? All these separate concepts make up a self schema. That is, I am intelligent, or I am attractive, or I am beautiful, or I am very knowledgeable. So all these separate concepts are making a self schema about myself. Such schemas are important building blocks for thinking. Why do we say that? Because, say for example, you have a self schema that you are very intelligent, or you are capable of doing or becoming something big in your life, or achieving very great heights in your career. So, what is going to be your thinking while planning your career or while studying is that you would properly plan your studies so as to reach your goal. You are doing this because you believe that you are capable enough of becoming a doctor, an engineer, an architect, or a professor, or anything. That means what is your self schema about yourself helps you in thinking and planning accordingly. Now, the another component of thought is known as mental imagery. What is mental imagery? Thinking also involves the manipulation of visual, auditory, or other images. Have you ever realized that while thinking, you are actually not touching the objects, but you are making mental maps? That is, with the help of your mind eye, you are planning something. Here we focus on visual images. That is, in mental imagery, we may focus on visual images only. Mental manipulation performed on images of objects are quite similar to those that may be performed on the actual object. We will understand it with the help of the upcoming example. Once we form a mental image of any object, person, or situation, we perceive it and think about it just as we would if it actually existed. Sometimes we could refer to it as we see things in our mind's eye. Let us understand how does this happen. Say for example, if you have to remove a large table out of the room having a narrow door, you will mentally rotate, that is, you will have a mental image of the table and think a way out to solve the problem. That means what I said earlier is when you are making the mental manipulations, what you are doing, or when you are mentally imagining things, you are in your mind actually behaving as if you could be behaving when you were actually touching the objects. That means when I am thinking about shifting a table from one place to another place, before actually shifting the table, I would be shifting it in my mind. That is, I would be visually analyzing in my mind that how would I take this table from this place or from this corner of the room to another corner. Once I have thought about it, then I would be implementing it. That means I would be actually doing it. It has been found that we usually think in words. For example, table. That is, when I am thinking about something, I would think it as a table. At other times, we rely on the mental images such as the visual image of the table. That is, I would be visually imagining or remembering that how a table looks like, what is the size of the table and how I can move it from one place to another place. In the above stated problem, one could physically try to manipulate the table to find a way out. But a more mature person will try to find solution through mental rotation. When I say a more mature person, that means somebody who might be having experiencing in shifting. So, if I do not know how do I do it, I would physically try to do it. That is actually trying to shift table from one corner to the another corner. But if I already have an experience of doing it, or if I know how can I do it, I would first try to find this solution through mental rotation. In the introductory part of this program, I talked about planning to go somewhere. The individual could think in words or plan the route through mental imagery. That is, create a mental picture of the route to the destination and decide that how would one be reaching the destination. So, this was all about the various components of thinking, in which we talked about the concepts, the schemas and the mental manipulation of the thinking. Now, we will talk about the problem solving. Now, what is problem solving? Problem solving is an important cognitive activity. Many people use it interchangeably with thinking. I have already discussed with you that all our day's activities involve problem solving. The problem may be simple or it may be a complex problem. The simple problems are of routine nature, as deciding what to eat in the breakfast. There could be a complex problem as deciding which career to choose. Problem solving refers to thinking directed towards solving a specific task or situation. The task may be very simple, that is deciding on the routine task, or it may be complex, that is choosing a career. This type of thinking has three stages, starting from the stage of occurrence of a problem, that what will I make in the breakfast, which is followed by a set of mental operations and it leads to a solution of the problem. So, there are basically three stages, that is, first is the initial stage, then is the operation stage and the goal state. So, first is the initial state, that is, we have a problem. Second is the operation stage, that is, we are actually acting on to solve the problem, and last is the goal state, that is finding a solution to the problem. If the problem is that what to eat in the breakfast, then you will decide on or you will think about various options. After thinking over various actions, you will take an action towards making the breakfast, and in the end you will reach the goal state, that is the breakfast is ready. And in the same way it happens that what career to choose, you will plan accordingly. First of all, you will have a problem, you will think about that problem, then you will take proper actions towards that problem, and in the third step you reach your goal state, that is you choose appropriate career for yourself. Now we can explain these three stages with a concrete problem. Suppose you get an unexpected bill to pay. Receiving the bill represents the initial state, that is the problem. Your goal is to find money to pay this unexpected bill without disturbing the original family budget. Now, this leads to deployment of certain operations for solving the problem. Some problem solving operations or steps are more desirable than others. For example, withdrawing money through credit card happens to be a more acceptable solution than borrowing money from a friend. By choosing the most acceptable operations or steps, you move from the initial problem state to the goal state when the problem is solved. Problem may differ with respect to the levels of complexity, but steps involved remain the same. For complex problem, the second stage requires more time in order to carry out a number of mental operations. That means the more complex problem is choosing a career. What to eat in the breakfast is not complex problem, is not that complex problem. So, choosing a career would require more effort at the second stage. What was the second stage of problem solving? It was taking action. So, this is how we try to solve problems in our day-to-day life as well as for our life. So, dear learners, this was all about today's program, in which we discussed about the process of thinking, the various components of thinking that involves the concepts, the schemas, the mental manipulation, as well as we also discussed about problem solving and various steps involved in problem solving. So, this was all for today's program. I hope you have understood well all the concepts in this program. So, I end up for today's program. Thank you.
जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने, राहों को आलोकित करने, हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने।
सीमा से विद्यालय जो मुक्त हो, संसाधन समय की सीमा से विद्यालय जो मुक्त हो।
कभी पढ़े हम कहीं पढ़े, वे विषय की लोच से युक्त हो। मित्रों हम उठे और जागे,
प्रकाशित करने, राहों को आलोकित करने।
जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने, राहों को आलोकित करने। हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने।
हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने।
जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने, राहों को आलोकित करने।
धन साधन समय की सीमा से विद्यालय जो मुक्त हो।
धन साधन समय की सीमा से विद्यालय जो मुक्त हो।
कभी पढ़े हम कहीं पढ़े, वे विषय की लोच से युक्त हो।
कभी पढ़े हम कहीं पढ़े, वे विषय की लोच से युक्त हो।
मित्रों हम उठे और जागे,
मंजिल आने की ध्वनि सुने। हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने।
जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने, राहों को आलोकित करने।
राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विद्यालय का है द्वार खुला सबकी खातिर।
शिक्षा परीक्षा का अवसर एक बार ही क्यों मिलता फिर।
शिक्षा और परीक्षा का अवसर एक बार ही क्यों मिलता फिर। दुनिया में इसके केंद्र बात,
कोई मन चाहा केंद्र चुने। हम